This segment of the CU Podcast, Ian, is brought to you by Skull Chest Games. Does your retro game collection need some spicing up? Well, head on over to skullchestgames.com where you can find sturdy and affordable stands for classic console games like the NES, SNES, N64, PS1, PS2, DS, Game Boy, Game Gear, and more.
Want to show off your nice controllers? Skull Chest Games has you covered with controller stands for N64, Switch Joy-Cons, PlayStation, and more. There's even one for the Zapper.
That's right.
Most stands and displays offer the option of customizing them with the word or short phrase of your choice. Check out more than 500 reviews and 5-star ratings and see what others have to say.
Special offer time for you all. I know you all have retro game collections out there. Right now, you can save 10% off by using code NESPunk at checkout when you go to skullchestgames.com. Again, go to skullchestgames.com and use code NESPunk to save 10%. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Go make that collection look nifty. Go organize. Get it done. All right, Ian.
Yes.
We have a Patreon, don't we?
We do. It's patreon.com/CU podcast. Go there. I do a weekly writing. You get the video podcast for free.
The full one.
Full video podcast for free.
Sometimes people forget we film something and cut up segments for the YouTubers.
It's funny how often people actually do still seem to forget that.
There's definitely a different audience between the podcast audio listeners and the YouTube. It's totally different audience, which I think is funny. Anyway.
Yeah.
You just wrote about your roguelike game?
Just wrote about playing roguelikes. That's my current obsession.
You titled it at symbol, which I thought was meant to be because I think they use that in those games, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if it was an error.
Player character.
Ian did it by accident on the Google Doc.
No, the ampersand is you.
And then you do a monthly hangout, and we do a weekly Patreon poll topic.
We do.
I'm going to 2. We're going to 2 because it's hard to think of 3 nowadays. And so in second place, and this is a good topic. It's almost one last week. Do big video game releases get too much hype? 22%. And in first place, this is we got to give ourselves a T-ball one every now and then.
Yes.
We probably do this topic every other year. What NES games stand the test of time for playability and fun? And please, we will not use the words didn't age well or age well, hopefully, in this segment.
So I was thinking of a couple, and I'm not going to list every single one because there's lots of them. There's lots of them. Mm-hmm. But I want to bring up, so this topic kind of came about when we were discussing also people not wanting to go back to play older games. Younger people maybe not wanting to go back and play because they were too hard. They were too frustrating or not enough is laid out or something like that. So I tried to think of games that had like decent controls that, to me, play like indie games that you would be able to go and buy today. So I think ones that I would certainly recommend. Do
indie games play like the quality NES games?
Sure. 2 that I would think of off the top of my head: Lolo, Adventures of Lolo, Lolo 3, and Kickle Cubicle.
I know Lolo has to come up. It's just funny.
It's an answer that I have.
No, I'm not criticizing. It's funny that I didn't think you would think of Lolo, but no, yeah, he's real low.
There's
not a lot of games done like that anymore.
No, there isn't. And they're great head-scratcher puzzle games. It's a genre that is not super well represented now. Kickle Cubicle is another one where it's kind of like a single
action puzzle.
There's a little bit more action in Kickle Cubicle and a little bit more puzzle in Lolo. But basically, you walk around a top-down viewing screen. You have to collect all of a certain thing before a door opens, and you move on to the next level. And in Lolo, at the very least, it's very easy to get yourself stuck in a level. There's usually only 1 or 2 ways to solve any given level, so there is a button you press to kill yourself. And I don't know, people might not enjoy a game where you can get stuck so much, but it happens in puzzle games that are out there now. I think it can happen in Baba Is You, which is a good modern puzzle game. But I think, they don't get these games don't see a whole lot of improvement from advanced graphics. I feel like they play just as fresh as they did then as they would now. And that's why I picked those 2. I think those 2 would be, great examples of something you could pick up no matter when you got into NES, and they would still play fine.
Yeah, it comes down to the having smooth controls, and like it's almost like when you get down to it, the graphics are secondary to how well a game plays, and is it fun. So what games play well? looking back? That's how I look at this question. Like, what games play smoothly that you can go back to? You know, a game that when you look at the controls are so fine-tuned that, wow, this is great. This is it. This is why I like games. So obviously you have the standard. You're gonna say, even though I don't personally like them, the Mega Man games. People like that sort of action platformer. There's upgrades, so that makes people like being able to dominate some bosses. Ninja Gaiden's still smooth. It's very unfair though in some spots, Ninja Gaiden, but it's smooth controls. The controls are very smooth. I just stumbled across, what game I just stumbled across in here that was like, that's a good one. A G.I. Joe, the G.I. Joe game, especially the first one, controls are so smooth, so spot on. All the different characters you have in G.I. Joe. No one talks about the game enough because it wasn't too common, at least the first one. Games that I guess feel like they are well paced, you are in control of them, offer a little bit of variety. Not just because I hear people say I can't play the original Super Mario Brothers sometimes, and I'm just like, what? I mean, the standard for how platformers play and control, like, so people might want a little bit more than that. So if they want a little more, then okay, so you can't complain about Super Mario 3. Then you have a little more variety.
Sure.
You have the different outfits. You have the overhead map. You know, you have games like that. That's why there are standards they come back to. So I'm trying to think a little bit younger when I'm going through these, unfortunately, because I did get in a little back and forth with people online about games being too difficult, like Legend of Zelda, and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm like, okay, I get it. You want something that's a little bit more to your sensibility nowadays then. But even a lot of the sports games, talk about sports games. Sports games have this weird knack of lasting a bit longer than other genres for people going back to and playing. For whatever reason, whether it's NBA Jam, people are still updating the NHL games from the 90s with updated rosters. They're doing it with Tecmo Bowl, and of course Tecmo Super Bowl and Tecmo Bowl. Tecmo Super Bowl is a near perfect game. 30 years later.
That's what I was going to say, because sports games keep evolving more towards the sim side. There are people that like to just play a quick, fast-paced representation of a sport. They don't necessarily need the sim.
Well, some sim elements, but arcadey action.
But
not
something like Tecmo Super Bowl is perfect, and that's
perfect.
Exactly
Hits its medium spot,
and that's why, like we've talked about, that's why NBA Jam does so well, and it is timeless, because it's a spot-on representation of a quick pick-up-and-play basketball game. Is it a sim? No, absolutely not. But it scratches that itch when you say, I want some basketball. And anyone can pick it up and play it. I
mentioned it before. Baseball Stars is still God. We don't talk about top 10 baseball game lists, but if you don't put Baseball Stars on there, holy shit, it's so smooth how the game plays. There's sim elements in it. Create your own team. The music is great. The animation is great for that game. I'm surprised there aren't more, like, I guess in certain regions there are, especially like N64 in Japan. I'm discovering cartoony baseball games that have sim elements, but I don't want all the Major League Baseball players. I want wacky stuff in this game. Like, I want some wackiness in here, but I do want it to be a sim as well. I want to play a full season, but I don't want to play, the Mets getting my ass kicked every game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously a game like Contra, smooth. It's a one-hit kill game. I love it. Others don't. There's probably, I'm trying to think. Obviously, the run and gun shooters have come back with indie games to a bit, but I still think in my head that they're probably less popular than an action platform where you get like a health bar, because they're a little more forgiving, obviously.
Sure.
For like Ninja Gaiden, than a game like Contra in some aspects. Even though you have reappearing characters, reappearing enemies in Ninja Gaiden when you stand on the screen, and then you get yourself screwed if you don't blaze through certain parts of it. Right there. How about Double Dragon 2? You like that one, Ian, don't you?
Double Dragon 2 I do like, actually. But I was going to say River City Ransom as well, especially with lately beat-em-ups have, kind of come back full force.
With sim elements? Well, that's sim with RPG elements.
Some with RPG elements. So, I mean, River City Ransom for sure, I think, stands up to the test of time, plays well. Double Dragon 2 does have kind of weird controls, but you get used to them, and I think that's one that holds up fairly well, too.
Well, it has two-player simultaneous action.
Yes, exactly.
So you can't get wrong with that. Let me use the good old app, which I haven't mentioned in a bit. I'm going to sort by rating here and just see what comes up. Let's there you go. I think Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is an interesting case for replayability because there's not a lot of games done like a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Where it's sporty, but it's really quick actions and then pattern recognition. And it's an interesting case of a game where I can picture someone either liking the game because it's so unique, or someone nowadays, a 20-year-old, being like, "What the fuck? I'm getting destroyed at this." I think like it's
playing Complex Simon, or something.
But it's different though because
it is. No, I know,
because there is pattern recognition, but there's also getting by, and then there's randomness as well with some of the boxers, with some of the boxing. There's some that's not random, some that's random. It's interesting there. Something like a Castlevania, people probably say, well, Castlevania 3 not the first, and the first one can be too difficult. I get that. I don't think people will go back and play. I think the one thing that suffers the most when you look back at that are the oldie-timey RPGs, especially like the original Dragon Warriors. I think those are passé, that style, by now versus modern RPGs probably, right?
Yeah.
I think people more like the Super Nintendo style, more action RPGs than the more simplistic Dragon Warrior stuff, where you really have to grind for fucking hours. You're not getting anywhere. You better help you get that freaking metal slime. You better hope when you got the metal slime, you're like, oh my god, get the metal slime.
Make sure you kill it so you can get the EXP.
I can go up 2 levels at once or 3 levels at once there. Another interesting one that is almost like the better sports games I think have long-lasting appeal is that the puzzle games don't go out of style. You play the Tetris on the NES, that's Tetris.
Yeah, and that's works. Kind of
or Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario.
Like that's I don't want to hear that didn't age well. It's the pinnacle of puzzle games. Happened in the late 80s. We didn't really evolve much after that when it came with Tetris or Dr. Mario. Is there even a third one? Puzznic, a game like that.
Puzznic was okay.
It's an interesting game.
It's an alright game.
Or dudes with attitudes. And then of course you have a game like DuckTales where Ian will didn't bring up surprisingly.
No, I didn't feel the need to bring it up. I don't need to bring it up all the time.
And then of course the shooters on the console, something like Gun Knack is excellent.
Yes,
something like that would, if you just upgraded the graphics, that game would be an indie game today. If you just
absolutely.
Gun Knack the Next Generation or what have you, that would be great today. I think we covered a good amount there. And then there's also fun ones that are one-offs that didn't really come out again, Silkworm's a shooter. That's a strange shooter. I love when people ask me, gun to my head, what's like one of your favorite NES games? I say Super Dodgeball. Just to say, it doesn't have 2-player full court action, but it's a fantastic game.
There's 2-player.
Only beanball mode in North America, not for back and forth.
Yes, it does.
What am I thinking of then? That doesn't have it.
I don't know.
Oh no, you can't.
You can do 4-player.
The 4-player thing is the one they changed. That's right. We talked about that. What am I talking about? Yeah, they have 2-player.
I have no idea.
You know what I was confused with? You can't pick the other teams in single player. I'm not confusing.
Yeah, you have to. You can only pick the teams if you do 2-player.
That's what I was getting fucked up with, and I think I was confusing that with the 4-player thing that we talked about a year ago.
Lincoln did a hack for.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can do 4-player beanball.
They all got spun in my head, and I somehow confused that with Double Dragon, the original not being 2-player because it's the same company, and that's how Pat's brain gets rewired sometimes.
It's fine.
Sorry about that. Super Spike V-Ball.
Lovely game.
Lovely game. Really smooth. You know which one I don't go back to? Kid Icarus. I just never got the controls in that. I never enjoyed Kid Icarus.
It's a vicious game.
I never liked the fact that your little arrow was so short to begin with, and you had to like grind up and buy all that shit. That's one where I won't use the dreaded phrase, but that's one I didn't like back then. Kid Icarus. I liked Metroid somewhat. I got confused as a kid with all the... I did not like Kid Icarus that much back then. And then Battletoads is always trash. And I hate when people try to... I think I got an argument on Twitter. I don't know if you saw that about a month or two back. People try to argue that Battletoads is a good game.
It's an argument I've had since the dawn of time.
And trust me, I can beat other games. I can beat Ninja Gaiden or freaking Top Secret Episode. Yeah, Battletoads. I'll give the Battletoads a try. I'll see if I can get through it with save states. I'll try to do that. I can go back and play the original Popeye because it's one of my favorite arcade games. There you go. And then don't play Ninja Turtles 2 because I like the arcade game and I'm spoiled. Fuck it. The original Kung Fu is a great fucking game. Great, quick 10-minute game, the original Kung Fu. Controls fantastically for a game that from that era.
I was actually going to bring that up and I didn't.
Are you kidding me? Kung Fu?
Great game.
Fucking Kung Fu. Not embarrassed. I give it 4.5 stars. I'm not embarrassed to say that. For what it does it fantastically well. Man, I can only give it 4 stars looking back, but I love Kung Fu with all my heart. Love it. Love it. Sorry, I'm getting angry about Kung Fu.
It's all right.